We have the Essendon Football Club and the next team with picks in this year's draft, which are nominally 5, 6. They also hold 21, 27, 30, and they have some players, Adam Swade and Hussein El Ashkar. Is that how you pronounce it? Ashkar or Akar?
Yeah, I think the Lebanese pronunciation is El Ashkar.
Okay, yeah.
It's a bit softer.
Yeah. I kind of read it as like silent, like a.
I think the first time I saw it, I was like Akar. I was reading it like that. Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we'll just avoid saying his name for the rest of the episode.
We'll call him the same.
Yeah.
Us, they call him.
A couple of small, medium forwards. Small midfielder forwards or small forwards, would you say, for Essendon?
Swade's more of a runner, so he gets up the ground. But he's 175, so he's a little guy. He's going to have to play, I reckon, like that sort of small forward, high forward role.
Yeah.
And then, Hussein is more closer to goal.
Yeah. And obviously with Kako last year, I think we can assume that small forwards are not on the menu for Essendon in this particular draft.
If they drafted Lockie Doveston, it would be like the biggest surprise of my life.
It would be, yeah. I'd kind of love it though, but at the same time,
we're all in.
It wouldn't make sense. So on Essendon broadly, a general snapshot of where they're at as a list, they have more or less embraced the rebuild elements of they're embracing a rebuild phase, but they're also more advanced, I'd say, than some of the other teams currently rebuilding.
Definitely.
And obviously made the big decision, if you want to call it that, to not trade Zach Merritt, which would have only helped them get access to the draft. They've held on to him. This does not mean that they are not rebuilding. I think they can do both at the same time, at least retain their captain. Probably more of a principled stand as well.
Sure.
But where do you see Essendon are at as a list, bearing in mind, I thought the year started well. They're a reasonable team. They probably need some more top-end talent for sure, and the injury crisis probably made them look a little bit worse than they are, and they've fallen away in terms of the general consensus on where Essendon are at. I think I think there's a good chance they avoid the bottom four, for instance. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd agree with everything you said. They're definitely not as bad as what they put up in the back end of the year. I think probably from about the midway point of the season, Essendon were on performance for like the worst team in the competition. They were very difficult to watch, other than the occasional brilliance from Nate Caddy.
So I don't even remember when we played them. We probably got belted.
Well, no, wasn't there a close game? But didn't they beat you by like 2 points? Or was that the year before?
Yeah, no, you're right. It was in round before the injuries, I think.
Yeah.
That's unlucky.
Yeah, but their back end of the year was diabolical, but there's obviously reasons for that as well. Weirdly with the Bombers, like they have really cut that top end out of the team from an experience point of view. If they had lost Merritt, they wouldn't have had a 30-year-old on their list.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't really compute that at the time.
Outside of that, you'd have Peter Wright, 29, Cole Langford, 29. And then they do have a big group of experienced players that are going to drive them forward. And I think that's, again, why you see that they are, when they're not in that injury crisis, they actually are very competitive on field. Like
they are.
It just really comes down to like how you rate these guys. I feel like that is the question with Essendon. You've got this group of 24 to 28-year-olds that on paper, a lot of them are high draft picks and quality players, but it's like they don't buy in all the time, or there's just like kind of something wrong with the club, whether it's like players to coach or coach to players, or just maybe not having that high-end competitiveness with some of these guys. Like I look at players like Jade Gresham, like does he buy in all the time? Darcy Parish rarely plays. Ben Mackay's a weird player. Maybe I have North Melbourne glasses on, but I just feel like he doesn't defend particularly well for a guy that they paid a lot for. Ridley's always injured. McGrath, I sort of like, but a lot of Essendon fans don't like him for whatever reason.
I think he's a good player, but players never really shake the pick one title that they're given.
Yeah.
And with Hugh McCluggage being the other player they were going to take that year, maybe that bleeds into the psychology a little bit. But I think he's a good player. Like not a problem for him at all.
I would agree with that. I actually think he tries pretty hard. That's a weird thing to judge a number one pick on. He tries pretty hard, but he sort of does. And as a back flanker, I think he's one of the better in that role as a distributing guy in the comp.
In the context of this conversation, McGrath trying hard is a relevant point.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm going for there.
Yeah.
Dersma plays a pretty important role as that winger that sort of gets back and helps out. And then you've got like Durham, Nick Martin are probably the two high-end players from that group, in my opinion. And then Harrison Jones is a bit of a project. So I don't know about that group of players. I think that's why they're competitive when they're competitive, but it drops away pretty quickly and it's sort of conditional, it feels like, with some of those guys. And then you've got the younger under 23 talented players where Caddy and Kako probably stand out. but there's also some draft misses in there, if we want to call them that. It's like, what is Sardis going to be? Is Perkins ever going to make it? You've got a bunch of like 19-year-olds outside of that, but they've got others too where they've just sort of like Nick Cox and those types of players they're young, but they look more likely that they're going to be misses than not at this point.
Yeah, totally. I mean, if you look at the group that you talked about, their players in their prime, like some of their better assets, if you want to call them that, like Durham and Nick Martin. I mean, Sam Durham was a mid-season draftee and Nick Martin was an SSP player, I think.
Yeah.
And then a complete absence outside of McGrath, who probably still isn't like a pick one type of quality, if that makes sense. You know, they're not really generating some of these top end players from early picks, but they are doing fairly well with later ones. Like Nate Caddy's the best first round pick they've had in a while, yet might be the latest first round pick they had. If that makes sense.
So Caddy and, as I understand, Caddy and Kako come from the new regime.
Yeah,
and
totally.
then there's the older regime, which the older regime seems to, as you said correctly there, they picked really well in like mid-season drafts, rookie drafts, SSP, Nick Martin, D'Ambrosio, Patrick Voss, who they also cut, but like they seem to find players from that avenue, but then miss in the top end of the draft. So they get stuck with these. Like even you want to say about Sam Durham, like he's a great player, but is he a top 5 pick quality player? Will he ever be that? That's still probably a question mark.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they lack like that A+ punch in terms of their young list.
It's not like a Giant Newcomb for Hawthorn, where it's like he's from the mid-season draft. They've turned him into an unbelievably good player, but he's probably not A grade.
So this trend of like drafting well with like lower percentage picks or whatever, and not doing that well in the first round is also kind of true of teams like Hawthorn and Geelong.
Yes.
The difference is that I suppose Hawthorn and Geelong can attract the top end talent through trade. So they've got this nucleus of like Dangerfield, Jeremy Cameron, and at Hawthorn, we'll leave Hawthorn because they're probably a different example. But Geelong just had this group of players for a long period of time, so that when they draft a quality role player, they support what's there. And with Essendon, you know, it's probably more important for them to nail that pick 7, 8, 9 in 2020. And, you know, they've gone for safe, reliable types. They've gone for athletic players with a huge ceiling. Just haven't hit those Archie Perkins or Nick Cox selections yet. I'll separate Zach Reid. I actually think he looks like a likely type, albeit not a player in this A+ conversation.
He's still like he put up some really good form in 2025. I think that there was still a large part of the first 6 weeks of the season where he looked lost, and then he sort of found himself, and then he got injured. So I feel like there's still a lot to play out. Where I would go with it from a drafting perspective with Essendon is I think they find themselves in a kind of similar situation to West Coast, where I think getting leadership and character traits in this top end of the draft is almost just as important, if not more important, than getting talent.
Yeah. I suppose one thing that's also true of Essendon, I mean, there's been some turmoil over the years. There's been changes of CEOs. The coach has stayed, but they've got... Is the new president? Is Welsh the president?
Welsh.
Volzo's the CEO. So there's been a lot of change and cultural shift. And even if you look at their on-field performances, right, they actually haven't been that bad a team for most parts of a season. But I forget the exact year. It might have been 2023, but it was more than once. They would turn into this listless, pathetic team. I can think of 3 games. They lost the game by 126 points late in the season to the Giants, and Hogan kicked like 9 or 11 goals or something like that. Then there was 2 games in the last 3 or 4 years against the Bulldogs. I think there was a point they were losing 137-14.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like those kinds of performances, you know, they happen at West Coast, and we're like, okay, that's normal. But at Essendon, it's a little bit more Jekyll and Hyde.
Yeah.
So what's happening where these players all collectively seem to hit the wall later in seasons? So what the point I'm making there is there's things that are broader than simply the talent that have fed into their ladder position each year. You know, we'll probably stay away from the cultural analysis of Essendon at the moment, but there's just a lot of elements to this Essendon footy club and their lack of success over 20 years.
It's a really good point. And it's something that you notice when you're in a bottom team, because you line up against, like from a North Melbourne perspective, you line up against them and you're like, oh, they're in pretty, you know, they're in horrendous form. We've got a chance here. And then they'll pump us.
Yeah, they're good at beating the teams they're expected to beat, Essendon, aside from like, you know, those diabolical games. And you know, they lost to Richmond this year when they had no players.
Yeah.
But generally, that's true. They can be a competitive team.
Merritt is paying $1 when he comes up against North Melbourne to have 37 and 4. He's that exact type player.
Yeah, I feel you. So let's talk about the context of, or them in a context of drafting and, well, not trade. So assuming those later picks will be tied up for bids or whatever, let's talk about picks 5 and 6. As we said, their first early picks over the last 5 years have been patchy at best, with Nick Cox, Zach Reid, Archie Perkins, Ben Hobbs, who's been delisted, Elijah Sardis, who can't really form a regular part of that team, and then later Caddy and Kako.
So your thinking is that this actually affects their decision making with some of these guys. So you're sort of thinking with the fact that they've drafted like Sardis and Hobbs, that'll come into this new recruiting group.
That was what I said earlier, right? Like I said that earlier in the stream, that I did wonder if, I think we talked about it in the context of a Dyson Sharp being right for Essendon. So there's two ways to look at it. I mean, perhaps they look at the fact that Ben Hobbs, whilst maybe not as well performed as the Dyson Sharp, is broadly a similar player, right? As like certainly at that age, that inside midfielder. Sardis, I don't know if he's a bit of a different one to compare because he kind of had that explosive first step. But again, another first possession inside midfielder. Do they get scared? Did they get, or will they get scared off taking these types? Is the game moving to more of a stage where these types of first possession midfielders are not looked upon in the same way? Does Essendon then take a Dyson Sharp to simply replace Ben Hobbs, or do they go for a different type of player? I hope I articulated what I'm thinking. I think it's a good point in my head. I don't know if I said it very well.
I totally get you. I just think with Essendon, like there's two parts to this. Firstly, I think they've also done the opposite at the same time. They've taken the athletic type that doesn't necessarily have the footballing skills and that kind of contested ball winning. So they've gone one way or the other. The other point to that is it is a new recruiting team, and I don't think they will be attached to those decisions. Like I don't think that Rosa will feel like Hobbs or Sardis are kind of anything to do with him, and I think he'll just play his own game. As far as how you rate that position as like a first possession midfielder, my take has always been that you still need them, just not too many of them. Yeah. And I think for Essendon, a couple of the players that you've seen them linked to heavily are players like Dyson Sharp, and the other big one is Xavier Taylor, and those two are probably seen as the two best leaders in this draft crop. And I feel that's the way that I feel they will go. Now, availability is going to play into that. If Sharp's taken earlier, if Taylor's taken earlier, they won't be able to get them. But I think that works for them. And I do think that overall, because of their success with the NGAs and getting a player like Nate Caddy, for example, last year, they probably can afford to do this and then later on add some of those pieces.
I don't mind that.
Those high-end pieces, I should say, or different positional pieces.
Yeah. I don't mind that, but Sean John Hall points out he doesn't want Sharp because Essendon already have inside mids in Caldwell, Durham, and Parrish. Parrish probably later in his career now. Oh, I guess he's not that old. He's like probably
who's that?
Jussie Parrish. I'm trying to think.
27.
Yeah,
28.
28. Yeah. Okay. So it still has some time, but he makes a decent point there. Where does Sharp fit into a midfield like that?
Yeah, I suppose when I look at Essendon, I've kind of had this with Essendon fans before. I sort of see Parrish. Like, I don't know if he actually can get back to being a top line AFL player. I suppose if you're banking on the fact that he can, and he is only 28, but his body just seems to break down every time it gets going.
Yeah.
Have we seen players get out of that? Yeah. But you're not wrong. And who was the other ones he threw up? I think Durham's a little bit different because Durham's a bit more of like that forward mid.
Sure.
He's a bit more versatile and can play different roles. And then Caldwell.
Yeah.
Caldwell's more of a defensive mid for mine.
Yeah.
So I think he's not one of he shouldn't be in your best team as a starting midfielder. He should be someone that like comes in, or if you've got a particular matchup you want to use him for, he rolls through there. On top of that, obviously you got to factor in these NGAs that are coming through. I think Swade can play some midfield time as well. But I think they would definitely be they would have to be considering a player like Dyson Sharp.
Yeah.
Still.
Absolutely. Let's talk about their draft needs. I went through these options. A big-bodied stoppage midfielder. I mean, that's one that's been linked to them for years. And as they got Hobbs and they got Sardis and looking like this very well.
They ended up with Setterfield chasing that.
Well, that's
player.
true. That's true. That's
he
right.
was sort of a failed recruit as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's still like some degree of need there if you accept that Parrish is not part of the next premiership push, that's for sure. A quality transition midfielder, I think those are always on an appetite. Ball use of half-back, potentially. I'm trying to think who their best users of half-back. Like, there's McGrath, there's Roberts.
I think they would argue that with Zach Johnson, Jaden Ewan, Ridley's still a bit of a user. He tends to just not find as much of the footy. But he is a bit of a hybrid defender, Jordan Ridley.
You'd probably want more of that specialist rebounder, though. The guy who really drives it.
Yes.
Your Bashar Hoolies, who was once on Essendon's list.
Yeah, well, the other, they drafted, who's the guy they drafted out of the Preston Bull Ants? Did they cut him?
I don't know who you're referring to. I don't know the teams. Like, I'm new to Melbourne, so I don't like. It means nothing to me.
You keep going.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just going to find his name because it's annoying me. Someone will tell me.
Yeah. Look, a ball use of halfback, whether or not that's a. Xavier Taylor probably does fit that bill. I think it's a little bit early as it currently stands
Sardell
to
Hawley.
take. Oh yes, that guy. Yeah.
Yes.
I do know who that is. I just didn't know who the Preston Bull Ants are.
Sorry, I think he played for them.
No, your knowledge is impressive. It's mine that's shocking. Yeah, ball use of halfback. So that probably is a Xavier Taylor. And I still think a ruck prospect. So in this context, I actually think they are absolutely a team who suit Cooper Duff-Tytler.
Yeah.
Both because of the fact they need a ruckman, but also with Draper gone, there is, also an appetite for that second ruck forward.
Completely. And if Cooper Duff-Tytler ended up just being a key forward, I think that works totally fine for them as well. Like a big 200 centimetre guy next to Caddy.
Yeah, who's more that mid to lower side. Well, he's probably an undersized key forward, Nate Caddy. So there is a distinction between the two.
Yeah. I think clubs are also just going to look at Cooper Duff-Tytler from a non-positional sense as well and just go like, we've got a 200 centimetre guy that plays a bit like a midfielder. There's something in that, right?
Would you not just draft a midfielder?
If you're going to do that. Well, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose the idea is that you have an extra one on the field.
You have an extra midfielder on the field that can jump into the ruck and chase the ball up at ground level.
Yeah.
So you've got like an extra ground level player that can still compete in the air. So they're just multifaceted.
Yeah. Who are the best in the league at that? I suppose Jackson,
TDK.
Tim English burned bright for a little while there, albeit he's not that player anymore.
He's not physical enough.
Yeah, okay.
I think his contested game is weak. Although one thing Tim English does really well is like float back into defense and take marks. He's a good air. Like I say, he's not physical. He is in the air, not so much at ground level, but he is. Like you're 100% right. He's that type of player. I reckon underratedly, like Tristan Sherry falls into this category as well with just how well he follows up at ground level.
Yeah, okay.
He's not as athletic as those guys.
Yeah.
But he's just such a physical beast. He just goes after it.
Yeah, no, I see that. Obviously, probably not the CDT comparison as a player, but I get what your point is. Like when the ball hits the deck, he's that.
The difference between CDT, player. If you want to like make him out and give him a bit of a jump on those guys, he can run. Yeah. He has an incredible tank, an incredible endurance, and he's also fast. So he's more athletic than those guys.
Yeah, okay. TL73, we drafted a 200 centimetre player that can play as a midfielder before. Yeah. That was Nick Cox. He did look good in his first year.
He still kind of does.
Yeah.
Those types of ones are really interesting, I think. Like so he is one of those guys that has been concussed a lot, right?
Yeah. I think so. There's certainly been injuries, and I know that concussion was part of it. I don't know how many times that's happened, though.
He seems like one of those guys that gets hit in a contest and there's an injury. It's like, oh, geez, he's got a broken arm.
Okay,
he's got like, and it's almost like there's like he hasn't built up enough like robustness.
Yeah.
And I think it's like that tall, skinny body. It's like he almost needed to have like put it through more treatment. I know like I'm going off on a massive tangent here, but like Max Gorm was talking the other day and he used to get injured a lot in the early part of his career. And he said one of the things that he's done, he thinks that's prolonged his career is road running, which everyone tells you not to do because it's really, really hard on your body.
Yeah.
And he thinks the road running has like built up a resilience.
Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
I would have thought that would be the last thing you do.
Very, very anecdotal, but
yeah.
I don't know. I kind of like see that you see that in players. Like sometimes they do things that wouldn't seem intuitively kind to do to your body and they can have a positive effect.
Sean John Hall says he's been concussed once and TL73 says he's seeing a concussion panel in November to see if he has to retire or not. I did not know that about Nick Cox.
I thought he'd passed. I actually thought he was okay to play, but I didn't know that was still upcoming.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, people saying he'll get paid out and leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, so not ideal.
No.
But yeah, there definitely was like some sort of a, I guess, like fragility there.
Yeah.
So, did we pick their players?
No, we haven't gotten even halfway there. No, the most suitable players is the next segment I had. Who do you think are the most suitable players? We kind of sort of agreed CDT is one of them. Yeah, I mean, if you look, I don't know how many are unsuitable when you look at Sullivan Roby, Xavier Taylor, or even a Sam Grill.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element with all of these clubs too where like you do just need to bring talent through the door. I think Grill would be one that they'd be looking at.
In terms of who's likely to be available, like it is conceivable they get CDT and Xavier Taylor.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah.
That'd be absolutely great, I reckon. For some reason, I feel in my head that the fans wouldn't be that happy with that.
I think we like midfielders as a collective, us fans.
do.
Yeah, because it's a bit more, instant gratification.
I think it's you get that bang for buck.
Yeah. I mean, I stand firm that West Coast need to, but I think psychologically there's always that as well. But, I don't know if their midfield is well, certainly not as diabolical as West Coast.
That's what I feel though, I have the same thought process with Sam Grill, that I feel like people are seeing him as a little bit more of an outside player.
Yeah.
And that means that they think he's more risky.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going to say he's more likely to impact early. But
No.
I take your point. Yeah.
I actually think people were because most people have had Grill anywhere from 12 to 20, I feel.
Yeah.
In their rankings.
Yeah.
I just think he's like a lot more talented than that.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess the argument is that with outside players, if they don't have a strong contested game, which I don't think he does at the moment, but it's early as well, like that could change. But if he doesn't have a strong contested game, it does put pressure on his other attributes. And I don't think anything's going to happen to his speed, but he needs to become a damaging ball user as well. Doesn't have to be like laser, but like he needs to use the ball somewhat intelligently.
Yep.
So I just think that it just puts a bit of pressure on those other attributes if you're not that inside or balanced type of player. And when you look at pure outside players, how many of them really go early? If we're talking pure, I guess McKercher.
I wouldn't say that he is pure outside though. Like he averaged 4 clearances a game, which if that sounds low to AFL level, but that's pretty high.
Yeah, it's not bad. Yeah.
Like I think Sharp was 5 clearances a game.
Yeah, right.
At that's Coates League level for Grill. He played more halfback / mid, like with a little bit of mid time at champ, so it was lower. But I wouldn't say he doesn't have a contested game.
Yeah, okay.
He doesn't have a what would you call, like? He doesn't have a strong kind of like physicality, I suppose. Like he can't like break tackles and stuff like that because he's too skinny.
Yeah.
But
so there's upside as well.
There's upside, I think. Yeah. Anyway, we got off on a tangent there.
No, that was good chat. So players that are suitable, I'd say, Dyson Sharp in theory, Sam Cumming if he's available. I think it's early for guys like Lindsay or Farrow, but
I don't think Essendon would pick Lindsay.
No, it's too early in general. But I could see some appeal for Farrow. Like I could see that's the earliest that Farrow could bolt to.
Yeah.
Doverston makes no sense. Schubert, again, a little bit early, but if they wanted that partner for Nate Caddy, like he's not a bad option and not super early.
Who was that?
Aiden Schubert.
Yeah. I mean, I would have thought though if CDT was on the board, he goes before Schubert.
Yes, but it is also possible he's not on the board.
Yeah.
That's my analysis.
Yeah.
But we consider all these avenues. But
would we
rule
rule out Mitch Marsh because of Nate Caddy?
Maybe. It's also quite a leap for Mitch Marsh at this point. It feels.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
I think
things can change in the last month.
I think there's a lot of evenness with those players as much as this is a hard draft to rank.
It's very even.
It's very even.
It's very flat.
Yeah. People get a little bit in this time, they get a little bit too attached to, like, for example, like obviously Cal Toomey's sort of considered the consensus on that stuff and people get really attached to like where he ranks people and then it's a reach if you go for them. But I think recruiters would see that like middle crop as like very even.
Yeah.
Even I think Toomey's rankings that he dropped yesterday, Cumming went from 15 to 10. So if you
Yeah.
had have done a mock draft a month ago and had Cumming in the top 10, people would have said like, wow, that's a reach. You know what I mean?
Yeah, true.
And then now he's 10. So
Yeah, that's interesting. Potential pick swaps for the Essendon Footy Club. Okay, wait, sorry. We'll actually nail down who we think. CDT and Taylor is probably like the ideal picks for them.
they'd love that.
It's not a prediction, but it's just like their best case scenario.
Yeah. Yeah, CDT Taylor or like I reckon they'd be wrapped if they got out of there with like Taylor and Cumming.
Yeah. That's also suitable.
Yeah.
I think. How in terms of pick swaps though, we're reported to be interested in moving up to West Coast or Richmond's picks. The targets would likely be Dersma, CDT, maybe Roby.
They want to bring the brothers back together.
Yeah. Well, how seriously do you think they should trade for pick one?
Not at all.
I don't think very seriously at all.
I think it's romantic
Yeah.
with the brother thing, and maybe that's where the media element's coming. I don't really see any point for Essendon.
I mean, you back yourself thin. Like if Willem goes to West Coast, and they get Zane next year, like surely it's just a matter of waiting that out for Willem to come to Essendon. Like,
do you think that's at all on West Coast's mind?
It would have to be.
Yeah.
It's definitely a worthy consideration. At West Coast, though, they might back themselves in and say, in 4 years, we'll be past Essendon. And you know, who knows if that's true.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem likely at the moment, but you know, history would suggest that
a few people
possible.
are throwing Roby. The only reason I haven't mentioned Roby to Essendon is I assume he'll be off the board.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine Roby sliding past, but we're just speculating from the outside. It just doesn't seem likely based on the noise. But yes, he would be a good shout for them if he was available.
Yeah. People saying how many key forwards does one team need? I don't think Essendon. Sometimes you can have a lot of key position forwards, but none of them are any good. I think maybe Essendon are in that. Like Langford's a good player. They've got obviously Caddy there.
Peter Wright.
I don't think they're drafting around Peter Wright.
Peter Wright is also going to be 30 next year, as will Langford. So, you know, we're talking about a partner for Caddy. McMahon debuted. Harrison Jones, I think, has shown some good signs. Hasn't been injured a lot. He hasn't been a consistent player.
He had that
him.
sickening ankle injury this season, which was
gross.
Sort of dislocation / break. I can't exactly remember.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say Harrison Jones is a key forward. I know he's enormously tall, but he's like He's a tall utility.
Yeah.
He's a bit like Nick Cox.
Yeah.
Archer May looks pretty good.
Yeah.
And Edwards hit the ground running, but I don't like. He's an SSP. And I think he kicked like 5 goals on debut, didn't he?
Edwards?
Yeah.
I don't know if he kicked 5, but he did have a big debut.
Yeah. Maybe 4. There's a lot to play out, I suppose, is all I'm saying. Jerine is more of that...
ruck forward?
Ruck forward.
Yeah. I don't think any of those are rock solid enough for you to say we can't take Schubert, but I get your point. It's not like a glaring need.
I would actually say the only one that you're drafting around is Caddy.
Agreed. And yeah... I don't know much about Archer May rather and Liam McMahon. I've seen them play, but it's too early.
They're from the mid-season draft. Anything could happen there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yep.